There is a profound concept, articulated best by the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, Dr. Viktor Frankl, that strikes at the very heart of human resilience. It can be summarized as this: everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. This isn't a hopeful platitude. It is a truth forged in the darkest furnace of human history. It suggests that our ultimate power doesn't lie in controlling our lives, but in controlling our response to our lives. Let me take you to a place where hope was meant to die. Imagine a man, a brilliant doctor from Vienna, who has everything stripped away. His name is Viktor Frankl. His home, his career, his freedom, his family, all taken from him. Even the manuscript for a book he had spent his life working on is torn from his hands and destroyed. He is given a number and thrown into the nightmare of Auschwitz and then Dachau. In these camps, every moment was engineered to break the human spirit. The inmates were starved, beaten, and worked to death. They were stripped of their identity, their dignity, and their will to live. The Nazis could control their bodies, their environment, their every waking action. It was a total system of control. And yet Frankl, in the midst of this unimaginable suffering, made a discovery that would change our understanding of the human condition forever. He noticed something extraordinary. The people who survived were not always the physically strongest. Instead, the survivors were often those who held on to a purpose. They were the ones who had a reason to endure the suffering, a child they hoped to see again, a loved one whose memory they needed to honor, or a great work they still needed to complete. They had found a why for their existence, and this allowed them to bear almost anyhow. Frankl tells of one morning, marching out of the camp into the freezing Bavarian cold. A guard shoved him, shouting an insult. His feet were covered in sores. The icy wind cut through his rags. Every fiber of his being screamed to give up, to collapse, to let the end come. But in that moment, he performed an act of rebellion. He refused to let the guard control his inner world. Instead, he forced his mind elsewhere. He began to have a vivid, imaginary conversation with his wife. He pictured her face, her smile. He heard her voice answering his questions. He was so consumed by this inner vision of love and connection that he barely noticed the cold or the pain anymore. He was marching through hell, but in his mind, he was free. He realized then the ultimate truth. The Nazis could subject him to any amount of pain and degradation, but they could not force him to despair. They could not choose his attitude for him. That power, and that power alone, was his. In that space between the stimulus, the guard's shove, the freezing cold, and his response, lay his freedom. This was the one thing that could never be taken. Now think about your own life. Think of the prisons we build for ourselves, the prison of anxiety, the prison of past failures, the prison of resentment, the prison of feeling like a victim to our circumstances. We feel trapped by our boss, by our finances, by our health. But Viktor Frankl's story echoes through time to ask us a question. If a man in the depths of Auschwitz could find a space for freedom, can we not find one in our own lives? That space between what happens to you and how you respond is your sacred ground. It is where your growth, your character, and your freedom are born. An insult is thrown your way. Will you respond with rage or with dignified silence? A project fails. Will you respond with despair or with a determination to learn the lesson? You face an unexpected hardship. Will you see it as a roadblock or as a challenge that will forge a strength in you that you never knew you possessed? You may not control the events of your life, But you, and you alone, are the sovereign of your soul. You get to choose your attitude, you get to choose your way. That is the last, and the greatest, of all human freedoms. Choose it wisely.